By the time the alarms finally went off, they were ceremonial. Everything that mattered had already happened. I know because I was sitting 3 floors below the executive suite, watching a system reconcile numbers that no longer believed in each other. The kind of disagreement that doesn't come from error. The kind that comes from instruction. The irreversible part had already taken place weeks earlier. People just hadn't realized which moment it was yet. I wasn't the one in charge of anything that day. That distinction matters. It always does when the record gets reviewed later. My role was compliance oversight following a rushed merger, one of those deals everyone publicly called strategic and privately called necessary. I wasn't there to lead. I was there to observe, document, and certify that nothing unusual was happening, which meant I was close enough to see when it was. The first thing that tipped me off wasn't a missing dollar or a suspicious transfer. It was timing. An internal memo landed in my inbox at 2:14 a.m., flagged urgent, instructing my team to delay a scheduled reconciliation until after month-end close. No explanation, no justification, just a soft directive framed as operational efficiency. At 2:20 a.m., I ran the reconciliation anyway. That 6-minute gap told me more than the memo ever could. Someone had anticipated discovery before discovery occurred. That's when certainty began to form, not panic, not accusation, structure. I compared the live ledger against the immutable backup. They diverged in a narrow band, subtle enough to escape automated alerts. Revenue recognized 48 hours earlier than policy allowed, just enough to reshape a quarter without reshaping a headline. It was elegant, and it wasn't accidental. I logged the variance. I didn't escalate, not yet. Escalation too early warns the wrong people. Instead, I reconstructed the decision path: who had access, who had override authority, who benefited from acceleration rather than inflation. The answer narrowed faster than it should have. Everything pointed upward, but not recklessly upward, carefully. At that point, Evan still believed he was in control. Evan was the CEO installed after the merger. Confident, precise, always 2 sentences ahead of the room. He believed authority was cumulative. The longer you held it, the heavier it became. People like Evan mistake silence for agreement because it usually works. I'd seen versions of him before. Different industries, same posture. They all believe collapse looks like chaos. Raised voices, emergency meetings, press leaks. They never see the quiet phase for what it is. The building was nearly empty the night I confirmed intent. Just security lights and the low mechanical hum that reminds you the place will keep breathing whether you're honest or not. I reviewed the audit trail again. Then the archived audit trail. They conflicted. That shouldn't happen. One reflects the other by design. Unless someone wants plausible deniability in one direction and certainty in another. That was the first internal reversal. Something fundamental broke. Not emotionally, not visibly, logically. A system designed to hold no longer did. I adjusted my assumptions accordingly. I stopped asking whether manipulation existed and started calculating exposure if it continued. That's when the numbers got uncomfortable. Not catastrophic, survivable, but only under conditions of continued cooperation and delayed scrutiny, which meant the real risk wasn't detection. It was disagreement. The following week, Evan held an all hands. He talked about momentum, about discipline, about owning the narrative. He never mentioned numbers. He didn't need to. The people who mattered already knew which direction they were supposed to face. During a controls meeting 2 days later, the risk officer presented an updated timeline. Revenue had moved again. Backward this time. Same dollars. Different explanation. It shouldn't have been possible. 2 teams, 2 systems. Independent sign-offs. But the result aligned too perfectly. I watched the room instead of the slide deck. One director stopped tapping their pen. Another leaned back slightly, as if distance might help. Confidence drained without sound. No one challenged the math. No one needed to. The problem wasn't accuracy anymore, it was choreography. That was the second reversal. The assumption that coordination was limited collapsed. This was broader, intentional, socialized. After the meeting, Evan caught up to me by the elevators. He didn't look worried. He looked curious, which was worse. "You notice things early," he said, not a question. "I notice inconsistencies," I replied. He smiled. "That's why you're valuable." That was when I understood the shift in power had already occurred, just not the one he thought he de-engineered. From that moment on, the pressure stopped being explicit, which meant it was being managed. Calendar invites disappeared. Access privileges reset overnight, blamed on routine updates. Questions I emailed received summaries instead of source files. None of it dramatic. All of it cumulative. I recalibrated again. If they were confident enough to narrow my visibility, they believed the window for external consequence hadn't opened yet. That told me exactly where we were in the timeline. The third reversal came quietly and personally, as it always does. Legal sent over a certification memo asking me to attest that internal controls were functioning as designed for the prior quarter, not approve certify. Language carefully chosen to shift liability without raising alarms. I reviewed the attachments. They were incomplete. I asked for the missing documentation. They sent a narrative explanation instead. That was the moment fear appeared, not indulged, not expressed, just acknowledged and set aside. Because fear isn't useful unless you understand what it confirms. It confirmed that Evan no longer believed control came from concealment. He believed it came from momentum. And momentum, once it turns, doesn't ask permission. Momentum has a sound to it. If you listen closely, it's not loud. It's the absence of friction. By the time I declined to sign the certification, no one argued. Legal thanked me for my thoroughness and scheduled a follow-up that never appeared on my calendar. That told me everything I needed to know about how they expected this to end. I stopped documenting for internal audiences after that. From then on, everything I recorded was chronological, verifiable, and written as if someone unfamiliar with our hierarchy would read it later, because they would. The mistake Evan made wasn't greed or arrogance. Those are common. It was misidentifying the point of no return. He believed it was tied to exposure press, regulators, market reaction. In reality, it was tied to alignment. The moment people stop protecting you, control has already moved on. That moment came during a lender call I wasn't supposed to be on. An analyst asked a narrow question about cash flow timing. Reasonable, technical, kind of question that only matters if you already suspect the answer. Evan responded smoothly, without hesitation. Too smoothly. The numbers he quoted were accurate, just not current. They were from a version of the forecast that assumed a delay which had already been reversed internally. No one corrected him. That silence wasn't loyalty. It was distance. After the call, I noticed the risk officer hadn't updated the shared drive. Instead, a private folder appeared restricted, time-stamped, and already populated with documents I recognized. They weren't hiding anymore. They were staging. That was the fourth shift, though I stopped counting by then. Control doesn't disappear. It relocates. I finalized my external package that night. No commentary. No interpretation. Just timelines, variances, and the points where process stopped behaving like process. Truth doesn't need emphasis when it's properly ordered. The following week, the insurer withdrew coverage. No announcement. Just a letter citing material uncertainty. That phrase travels faster in boardrooms than any headline. Evan reacted by tightening his circle. Fewer meetings. Fewer voices. He believed compression meant command. What it actually meant was isolation. I was asked once directly if I believed the situation was manageable. I said, that depends on who you think is managing it. That was the last full conversation we had. From there, events moved the way they always do, incrementally, then conclusively. A regulator requested clarification on a single transaction, narrow scope, friendly tone. The lenders revised terms, slightly. The board formed a committee, quietly. No one raised their voice. No one accused anyone of anything. That comes later, after the language hardens. Evan spent his final days rearranging structures that no longer mattered. Org charts, forecasts, internal messaging drafts. He believed if he could still choose the order of things, he was still in control. But control isn't about sequence. It's about consent. The day he resigned, the announcement was efficient. Health reasons, mutual agreement. The market barely reacted. That's how you know it was expected. I cleared my desk that afternoon. No exit interview. No acknowledgement beyond a nod from security. They'd already been briefed on what to remember and what to forget. Outside, the city looked unchanged. It always does. Buildings don't reflect what happens inside them. Later, when the formal findings were released, my name appeared once. Not as a witness, not as a whistleblower, as a reference. That's what stayed on the record. The rest stayed with me. Control never vanishes. It just leaves the people who believe they still have it. And it never announces when it goes. I post regularly on my channel. If you have any feedback, it's always welcome, but I try my best, so I'd appreciate it if you liked and subscribe to my channel as I'm still new here. Much love.